Israel is known for being a Jewish state, but its land is home to three of the world's great religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. One of the main goals of Israel as a democratic state is to allow people from all three religions to celebrate their heritage by visiting their historical sites. We wanted to show you one example in Jerusalem, where one of the busiest tourist destinations is the Via Dolorosa, which is revered by Christians as the path of Jesus' final walk. We'll take you along the path to explain why it's significant to Christians and how Israel has preserved the historical site to this day. Via Dolorosa means the Road of Sorrows, and while the poetic name has led many to imagine the path as quiet and pastoral, it's just the opposite. The famous street is pretty noisy, filled with vendors vying for your attention, and it's surrounded by stone buildings instead of olive trees. But don't worry, this busyness is what Jesus would have actually seen on that fateful Friday. It was Passover week, and Jerusalem was bursting at the seams with pilgrims. So do you think this is what it looked like 2,000 years ago? Do you think it must have changed?
2,000 years ago, it used to be like the palace.
Okay.
Pilatus Palace. Now it's old tradition, new building. Jerusalem destroyed 6 times and built 7.
For as long as Christians have been coming to the Holy City, they've walked the last path of Jesus. While buildings in the area have changed some over the past 2,000 years, the path itself has stayed virtually the same. As time has gone on, the sacred stories of Jesus' final walk have become revered landmarks, otherwise known as the Stations of the Cross. There are 14 stations, and visitors can visit each and every one. We're here at the first station of the Via Dolorosa, known as the Praetorium. This is where Jesus was tried and condemned by Pontius Pilate, and it's really where the whole story starts. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the stops. The second station is just next to the first, and it's where the horrific sight of Jesus' walk actually began. It's here that Jesus was saddled with a cross and scourged by Roman soldiers, leaving him beaten and bloody, with the long walk ahead of him. The next few stations commemorate Jesus' walk itself. As you continue along the path, you can see the length and difficulty of Jesus' walk, including the places where he struggled to even lift the cross. This can be seen at the third station, which is dedicated to where Jesus fell for the first time. And at the fourth station, you can see where Jesus met his mother Mary on the path, along with one of his disciples. This is the fifth station of the Via Dolorosa, where Jesus leaned to rest, and where he met the pilgrim Simon of Cyrene, who helped him carry the cross. You can see here a small indentation in the wall, where pilgrims like to place their hands and imagine Jesus leaning. The sixth station commemorates where a woman wiped the sweat and blood from Jesus' brow, bringing him some relief on his painful walk. Further down the path is the seventh station, where Jesus fell for the second time, struggling under the weight of the cross. You may have heard hymns referring to Golgotha as the Hill of Glory, and while the phrase sounds poetic, it really is an actual hill. Looking at the path, you can see that Jesus was literally fighting an uphill battle as he progressed up the steep path to his destination. It was likely a very painful sight, and you can see that at the eighth station, where he spoke to a group of women who were weeping for him. The book of Luke says that Jesus called them the daughters of Jerusalem and said not to weep for him, but to weep instead for their children. The ninth station is where Jesus fell for the third time, and it's also where pilgrims can get their first glimpse of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Our story continues at the 10th station, which is a set of steps with a broken column on the east side of the church's main entrance. This station is said to be the place where Jesus was disrobed before his crucifixion. The 11th station is on the opposite side of the church, to the right of the main entrance. If you go up the stairs in the church, you'll find a platform that sits under a ceiling covered in mosaics. This is where Jesus was nailed to the cross, which is depicted in a breathtaking mosaic. The 12th station commemorates Golgotha, where Jesus died on the cross. The station is made up of a large crucifix to symbolize the cross and a table that looks like an altar. It's not uncommon to find Christian pilgrims kneeling on the altar to touch the spot where Jesus' cross is said to have stood. This is one of the most emotional scenes of the entire path, and visitors often stop to pray and imagine the scene of Jesus' crucifixion. The 13th station is downstairs from the platform representing Golgotha, and it shows where Jesus' body was prepared for burial. In fact, it's possible that the stone is the very one that Jesus' body was laid on. Christians often stop here to touch or kiss the stone and acknowledge Jesus' death. The 14th station is the tomb of Jesus, which is called the Holy Sepulchre, and is what the church is named after. This place is venerated as the tomb owned by Joseph of Arimathea, where Jesus was buried after his death. There are usually long lines of visitors waiting to enter the tomb. The burial site itself is split into 2 rooms, one which is called the Chapel of the Angel. It represents where the angel told the 3 women that Jesus is not here, he is risen. The other room is the tomb itself, which remains empty. This brings us to the end of the Via Dolorosa. You've now seen the entire path of Jesus' final walk to his death and his burial, and most importantly, where his tomb remains empty.